high occupancy vehicle lane by an operator of a motor vehicle who is pregnant.
Chair recognizes Ms. Leach to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this truly is a Mother's Day bill. This bill will allow our pregnant women in Texas to use HOV lanes. I do have a floor amendment.
The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Leach.
Mr. Leach to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under current federal rules, there's no exception to the code which governs the use of HOV lanes for facilities that use federal funds for pregnancy. This amendment simply says that TxDOT would not be required to implement legislation if they have to contradict FHA requirements. And with that, I move adoption of the amendment. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker,
For what purpose?
would the gentleman yield?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
The gentleman yields.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. What?
Does federal transportation code forbid us from doing this?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. So your amendment says that if it conflicts, they don't have to do it, but there should be no conflict, right?
Can you say that again, Representative Wu?
Your bill allows in Texas women who are pregnant to be in the HOV lane without like criminal sanctions or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay. And your amendment says that if TxDOT is told by the Federal Highway Administration that we can't do that, then
Yeah, so in short, Representative Wu, there are, the HOV lanes are, as you know, high occupancy vehicle lanes. Sometimes, depending on where the roadway is, it can involve state and federal funding. So it's going to involve federal, state, and local dollars.
So not all highways, just the U.S. highways and not the TX.
Well, it would depend. There's even some toll roads in Texas that would involve local, state, and federal funding. And so all the amendment says, there's nothing that in current statute that we know of would contradict this or forbid this from happening. But if the federal government were to come in and say, we can't have that HOV lane for that purpose in order for you to preserve your federal funding, then TxDOT could manage that situation. So, we don't believe that's the case.
There's no rule in place in case they pass someone. In case they pass one in the future, it'll keep it from killing this law or striking it down or something like that.
This does give TxDOT the authority to deal with the federal government. I don't believe that that's going to be necessary. We know of no specific instances that would require that. Thank you for those questions. I move adoption of the amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Leach sends up an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? The chair hears none, and the amendment is adopted. Chair recognizes Mr. Leach to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker?
Ms. Gonzalez, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
The gentleman yields.
Representative Leach, I really appreciate you trying to take care of us women over here. We do have a logistical question. How would a law enforcement officer who may potentially pull over a woman know that they might be pregnant? Like, how would they verify that?
Sure. I don't expect our law enforcement officers to perform pregnancy tests on the side of the road.
Although maybe convenient.
The way that I imagine this playing out, Representative Gonzalez, and this actually did play out for a lady in my district in Plano. Her name was Brandy Batone in Plano. She was pulled over. She was driving. She was pregnant. She was ticketed, and then she was able to prove in court you can imagine how a woman might be able to prove to a court that she's pregnant. And she was able to get out of the ticket. And so what this will do is simply, look, if a cop doesn't believe a woman and wants to ticket her, I can't imagine that happening, but if it does, then a woman could get out of the ticket by proving in a court of law that she is with child.
So it's a post-action opportunity, I guess you could say.
This presents essentially an affirmative defense to any ticket that would be given or any citation that would be given to a woman who is pregnant. And I expect that TxDOT will message this so that women in Texas who do find themselves with the blessing of being pregnant will be able to know that they can ride in an HOV lane without being pulled over.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you answering our questions.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Ms. Plesa, for what purpose?
Does the representative yield for some questions?
Will he yield for questions?
Yes, I yield for
The
questions.
gentleman yields.
I just have a couple of questions. So HOV lanes are intended to actually reduce traffic congestion.
I'm sorry, Representative. Can you start over?
Yes, Chairman. I just was trying to kind of walk through this, and I was just trying to figure out. So HOV lanes are actually intended to reduce traffic congestion. Have there been any studies conducted about how this might affect traffic congestion in our county?
I haven't performed any studies myself, nor have I seen any. I think the more look, what this does at the end of the day is, I think it elevates motherhood. It kind of tags on to our ongoing effort in this state to promote a culture of life in the state. And I think our mothers who need to get from point A to point B, whether it's from work to pick up their kids at school, back home to the grocery store, it will open up those HOV lanes to them while they drive alone, but they're with child. And so I think there's no studies that say that this will reduce congestion or that this is necessary, but I do think that this is when I say it's a gift to our mothers in Texas, I really do mean that. I think that this is a step in the right direction when it comes to elevating and supporting mothers across the state.
Thank you so much for that. So if an unborn child is considered a passenger for HOV lane purposes, should similar considerations apply to other transportation policies, such as vehicle occupancy requirements for toll discounts?
I'm not sure I understand the question. That's beyond the scope of this bill.
Okay. What measures are proposed to prevent individuals from falsely claiming pregnancy to access HOV lanes?
Representative Plesa. That is beyond the scope of this bill as well. This is allowing mothers who are with child to drive in our HOV lanes. If they have to go into a court of law and present a pregnancy test or present a doctor's note, I'm going to leave that up to our courts and our judges and our women across the state.
Okay, and I have
Can't
one
imagine that being necessary, but if it does, then this law will protect that.
Thank you, Chairman. I have one final question. Beyond HOV lanes access, have alternative measures been considered to support pregnant individuals' transportation needs, such as improved public transit options in Collin County?
That's beyond the scope of this bill, Representative Plesa.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Flores, for what
will
purpose?
the gentleman yield for
Will
question?
the gentleman yield for questions?
I just want to make sure I heard right when you said
does.
that, thank you, that your constituent was able to go to court and show proof of pregnancy, so the ticket was dismissed? Is that how it worked?
I don't know exactly the facts of how that transpired. I do know that she was ticketed for it. It was widely covered by the Dallas Morning News, and she talked pretty openly about it. And, she argued, I have never met her. She hasn't testified on the bill, but I do know her story bothered me, and that's how I initially came up with the idea for this bill. It was actually a few sessions ago that I did.
And I heard you say it was an affirmative defense too when after you get a citation?
Affirmative defenses are legally spelled out, as you know, Representative Flores. I think that's the way I think about it. It's specifically identified as an affirmative defense here, but it does set into statute allowing pregnant women to utilize HOV lanes. And so in a situation where a woman is cited by an officer for driving alone, and she argues to the officer that, no, I'm not alone. In fact, I have a baby growing inside of me, and Texas law allows me to drive in this lane. If an officer still wants to ticket her, then when she shows up in court to fight that ticket, she can present proof that at the time of the citation she was pregnant. That's very clearly what it does.
Well, I actually like that.
And I can't believe y'all you're arguing against this.
I'm not arguing. I'm asking questions because I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Because, like you're driving without your insurance because it expired and you didn't bring the copy or you didn't get it on your phone in time, and
Sure.
so you will get a ticket and then you can have it dismissed. I actually think that's an actual better thing, because how else would an officer know that a woman is pregnant if you can't visibly tell? So, I would think it might be rife for abuse. Not to say that. I mean, not everybody has good intentions in this world, and maybe they're in a rush to get somewhere, and they're just going to absolutely say, "Well, I'm pregnant," and how are they going to disprove that? So I actually like the idea of issuing a citation and then maybe just having it dismissed because you show proof of pregnancy. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Gervin Hawkins, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
So
The
she'd have
gentleman
to
yields.
take off of work and go to court?
Say that again?
She would have to take off of work and go to court?
Oh, God, I hope not.
So, how could she prove it in court if she doesn't go to work, doesn't go to the court?
I'm sorry?
I said, how can she go to court and show evidence of her pregnancy if she doesn't go to court? So
Well,
she'd have to take off of work
she'll
and go
work
to
that
court.
out with the court. There are court dates. That currently happens under law where court dates have to be rescheduled and schedules have to be worked around. You know that, Representative
All right.
Gervin Hawkins.
So-
That happens now with every traffic citation. If you can't show up at the time you're expected to show up, then you notify the court and they easily reschedule it.
And so what if she shows up and say, well, I thought I was pregnant?
I'm sorry?
What if she shows up and tells the judge, I thought I was pregnant?
If she had a good faith belief that she was pregnant at the time, then I would expect that a judge at that point would relieve her of the duty under law to pay the ticket. That would be my position.
Okay, and then my final question is this. So if she goes to court and she's not pregnant, she just has to pay her ticket or work it out with the judge, right? Or work it out with the judge.
It's just like any citation, any traffic citation, Representative Gervin Hawkins. If I get pulled over for driving in a school zone, and the cop said that was going 40, but I in fact was going 15, and I have some sort of proof that I was going 15, then I can walk into a court and I can prove that. That happens all day, every day in courts all across this state.
I agree with you, Representative.
So what this will do is essentially allow a pregnant woman who was cited for driving in an HOV lane to walk into that court when she is required to appear and say, whoa, 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 Texas law allows me because I'm pregnant to drive in this lane, the ticket should be dismissed.
I think it's awesome, Representative Lee, so I really celebrate you for that. But then here's my real final question is, for the police officer to ask that, is that sexual harassment?
If I was a police officer and a woman I pulled over in an HOV lane and said she's pregnant, I'm going to say, have a nice day, ma'am. See you later. I'm not going to ask her, and I've got to believe that I would hope that our DPS troopers and law enforcement officials all across the state would know the lines and not get close to them.
So we're not putting that officer in jeopardy of a sexual harassment suit?
I think, no. The answer is no.
Just thought about it.
No, I understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Howard, for what purpose?
would gentleman yield for some
Will
questions?
the gentleman yield for some questions?
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you. I too, Representative Lee, support this and thank you for the consideration. I do want to point out, though, something that you said about how it would be helpful, like if she was having to rush to get the kids at school and that sort of thing. Wondering if you might want to extend this to just women in general.
You know what? Let's do this. Well, okay, let's do this.
For Mother's Day.
If you would like to bring a third reading amendment tomorrow that would do away with HOV lanes for all women in the state, or we could say all mothers in the state, I'll sign on to it. I think HOV lanes are stupid anyways. And in fact, I have one right in the middle of my district that I've been working for 10 years to get rid of on Highway 75. I think they're ridiculous, and we should do away with them. Most of the times they're empty, and they're actually more hazardous than not. And so, Representative Howard, I'd be glad to consider that amendment on third reading, or if you want to file that bill next session after we both get reelected, then I'd be happy to support you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Howard.
Ms. Morales-Shaw, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for a couple of questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, yes, I won't take too long. Chairman Leach, as a mom of four, I like your bill. I got a ticket with my newborn in an HOV lane, and I had to go to court and fight it. And I won, by the way. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate you looking out for new moms, and I hope that you'll help support my paid parental leave in the future. I filed it 2 sessions, and I think it's taking it even further to look out for them. Would you consider that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, I'll be happy to look at your bill. I haven't had a chance to yet.
Next go around. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Members, I really do. I am serious about this and think this is a great Mother's Day gift to our moms across the state, whether they're expectant, whether they have 1 or 3 kids. We move passage. Happy Mother's Day.
The question occurs on passage to engrossment of House Bill 2462. This is a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Ms. Hinojosa voting aye. Show Mr. Morales of Maverick voting aye. Show Mr. Hayes voting aye. Show Mr. Leach voting aye. Show Mr. Hunter voting aye. Have all voted. There being 135 ayes, 3 nays, House Bill 2462 is passed engrossment. The chair lays out on second reading House Bill 16.